I could really sit here and give you this, like, I was in treatment for 10 months, okay? I could sit here and if I were to talk about my entire experience, I'd be sitting here for 3 hours. I don't want to do that. I'm going to break it up into chunks for you. So I thought what would be a really interesting compromise is to come on here, tell you guys about my first day in treatment, what that looked like. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Hello, my friends. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you don't already know me, my name is Katie. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for taking a chance on me to come on over and hear some real talk. If you haven't already, go ahead and click that subscribe button. To my returning subscribers, thank you so much for being a part of the love, joining the family, and walking with me on my journey. I couldn't do this without you guys, and I just really want to thank you for being here. So for me, my recovery experience really began when I was 15 and I went to my first 12-step meeting. But my first honest effort at getting well took place when I turned 19, okay? And I didn't know this was going to be my first actual honest effort at recovery. So when I turned 19, coming out of addiction and alcoholism and everything that I had gone through, I had given a stab at getting clean and sober one last time, and I had myself convinced that I could still drink alcohol, but I couldn't. If you guys are new here and you haven't watched any of my videos before and you're like, what is this girl talking about, go ahead, pause this video, scoot over to my last videos, take a look through them. Some of them in there will give you an idea as to what I'm talking about, what my motive is for this page, what my intention is in bringing some light and some hope and shining the light on what so many people don't want to talk about, which is addiction and recovery, and that it does happen. Recovery does happen for people. You don't have to suffer alone and in silence, and I'm here to speak out on that. So go ahead, go watch an old video, get up to speed. It'll make more sense as to why I'm talking about my first day in treatment right now. So when I was 19 years old, which is the actual legal drinking age in Canada, or in this part of Canada where I live and grew up, I had myself convinced that I could still drink alcohol and be fine, which is not the case for somebody like me. If you've watched some of my older videos, you know that my problem started with alcohol. So here I am, 19, trying to convince myself and convince everybody around me that I can still drink, and I'm just getting worse, and I'm spiraling and I'm spiraling and I'm spiraling. I'm interested to know how many of you guys out there can kind of relate to what I'm talking about when I say, like, I switched from one thing to another. Whether you have a substance abuse issue or you are just somebody who struggles with addiction, whether it's gambling or food or shopping, like whatever it may be, have you ever replaced like one thing for another and like convinced yourself you're fine, but like the addictive behaviors are still like just have hold of you? Because like, whew, that's my story. That's my whole story. So if that's you, leave me a red heart down below, because I need to know that I'm not alone here, okay? So had myself convinced that I could still drink alcohol. Not the case. Circling the drain. Getting worse and worse and worse as time goes on. And finally an event happens in my life that I'll probably share about in another video. It happened one night when I was convinced I wasn't going to drink. I was going out with my friends. I didn't want to drink. I had been drinking for probably 3 weeks before this night, and like every single day I was drinking and partying and living my life and being 19 and being free and going to the clubs and going to the bars, and like it was a new club every night, like, oh, brutal. And I had myself convinced that like I was not going to drink this night. Wake up in jail the next day. I had not been in trouble as an adult, okay? In Canada, you are legally an adult when you turn 18. So as of the time that I turned 18 years old, even though I was in and out of drug addiction and alcoholism, I had not been in trouble with the law. I had managed to not get myself arrested. Even though I was doing things that I could have been arrested for, I managed to stay out of trouble. This one night, not so much. I get arrested in a blackout. I don't remember a thing. I wake up in jail the next day. I now have a no-go to my parents' house, which is where I lived. So no-go, like legally, on paper, cannot go there, cannot talk to my mom, cannot talk to my sister. If I do, I will be arrested. So didn't want that to happen. Didn't want to lose any more of my freedom again. So I go and I stay with a girlfriend, and I call up this drug and alcohol counselor that I've had since I was 14, I guess. Call her up, make an appointment to see her. So her and I get together, and prior to this, she had been talking to me about going to residential treatment for a while. And I was like, no, 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 I'm fine. I don't need to go to treatment. I'm not like those people. I can do it on my own. I just need to hit more meetings. I just need to see you more. I just need to see a psychologist. Like, I was so crazy. Like, I just did not want to go live somewhere and get well. Like, addiction had its hooks in me so much that, like, I wasn't even aware at the things that it was doing to me, okay? I did not want to go live somewhere where I had to listen to somebody else's rules. I did not want to go live somewhere where I might get well, inevitably, you know? So, anyways, sit down with her. I have nowhere to go. What am I going to do? And she's like, well, here's your options. And since you don't have contact with your parents, you don't have funding to go anywhere that would require funding, like the big, nice, fancy treatment facilities that are, you know, on this island by where I live. That would have been very nice. So I had to go for option number 2, which was to get on government assistance, which takes forever and is a really painful process. But, you know, it really humbled me looking back now. Being somebody who was like always trying to find like the next source of income, the next this, the next that, like always on the go, like to humble myself to that level where like I had to go and ask for help and like get on government assistance. It brought me to my knees. That was like the first little step in my surrender. So I have to go through this headache of a process, fill out all this paperwork. I'm on the phone all the time trying to get funding, this and that, so I can go to one of these treatment recovery houses that she has suggested that I go to. So the one that I really wanted to go to was one that a friend of mine had actually suggested to me. I knew enough about recovery houses at this point in time that I knew the ones that had the really strict rules and policies and the ones that didn't so much. And this one that she had, my friend had suggested to me that she had gone through, I liked because you were really only on like lockdown for the first 10 days. Then you got your cell phone back, you got some privileges back, you could go to the store by yourself, you know, you got a little bit of freedom back. So I wanted to go there. So I made sure that we really pushed the application there. I was on the phone, like I said, with the government every day trying to get my funding in place so I could go to this facility. And I got a phone call 2 weeks later on the Monday from the site manager of this house telling me she had a bed on the Friday. And could I come? So I said, okay. So the night before I went into treatment, just like any alcoholic would do, I drank and I drank and I drank and I drank. And I was staying at a girlfriend's house who had 2 young kids. She didn't have kids the night before I went in, her kids the night before I went into treatment, but nonetheless, I got absolutely wasted. She was drinking as well. I convinced her to let me take the keys to her car and drive to the store. And there was 2 children's car seats in the back. This is what addiction does to me, right? This is what my alcoholic brain says is okay. You know, I just wanted to party. I just wanted to forget. I was willing to risk it all because I was going away. And in my brain, I really believed that I only had to go to treatment for like a week and I would be fine and I would be able to fool my parents once again into thinking that I was willing to get well and I'd be able to come home. So that night, I drank until I passed out, which was a normal thing for me. That was the only way I could fall asleep anymore, was drinking until I was completely like blackout drunk, was passing out, and then would sleep until whenever. The next day I woke up and it was time for me to go. My dad was on his way with my aunt. They picked me up. I was so hungover, you guys. It was awful. And my dad made a stop at Tim Hortons for me so I could go and get a coffee and get something to eat. And the drive-through at this particular Tim Hortons was like closed or backed up or whatever. So I'm like, you know what, I'll go inside. And like, I was thirsty, okay? Like, I had dry mouth and like, I just needed something to drink. And I was inside because everybody was going inside. I was inside for so long that when I came back out to the car, my dad actually thought that I had like just taken off. He didn't believe, like, they were waiting, and like if I didn't come back out in 5 minutes, I guess I was in there for a long time. I don't know, like, I don't remember, but to them it was a long time, and they thought like I just bolted. They thought I just took off out the other side of the building and was gone. God, and like that wasn't even a thought in my mind. But I can understand how it was in theirs, you know, because I would do that. It would be something that I would do. So anyway, we pull up to this house, this big house on a main road. There's nothing that differentiates this house from all the other houses on this main road, okay? And there's women in the driveway, and they're getting ready to leave for the weekend. And they were super nice. They were a couple of older ladies, and they just looked like your average lady, mom, woman that you would see in the grocery store. And, you know, they helped me pull my garbage bags out of my dad's truck because that's all I had was a couple of garbage bags with clothes and some stuff, and bring it inside, and then they left. I found out that one of them was my roommate, and wasn't sure how I felt about it at first. I walk through the doors of this house and it smells clean, like cleaning products. Like it just smelled clean and fresh. And there was women wandering all over the place, and I was 19 years old. I was extremely bloated from drinking nonstop. I was pale with probably a little bit of like a yellowish hue going on there. I had jet black hair. Like, I was not something that was by any means attractive at that point in time. And I was scared. But because I'd been somebody who was on the streets and who had been through a lot of stuff, I wouldn't show that, because for me, in my brain at 19 years old, having been through what I'd been through, you don't show fear because it's a sign of weakness in my mind. So I walked back down this long hallway that felt like it went on forever with my dad and my aunt to the office, and I meet the site manager. She brings me into the office and she says to my dad, like, thank you, we can take it from here. I was still really hungover. I wasn't feeling good. Prior to me coming in, she asked me on the phone on the Monday if I could please have 3 days clean and sober before I came in. And of course, I was like, no problem. Not to worry. I can do that. And obviously I couldn't because I was hungover when I got there. That's just how much control this thing had over me. So anyways, we go in, my dad leaves, my aunt leaves, she closes the door and she looks at me and just kind of smiles. And I have so much gratitude for this one woman today, because I was absolutely terrified and she made that okay. This woman, if it wasn't for her and another counselor at the house that I went through, I don't know if I would be sober today. I believe that those first 90 days that I was in treatment were critical for me, to really dry out and thaw out emotionally and really like connect to people. And they really helped me do that. And this first date in particularly, the amount of love and compassion that I was shown in one of my most scary times in my life thus far, I don't know, I just have so much gratitude for that. You know, and I get emotional talking about it because that woman got really, really sick after I graduated this house. I was in treatment for 10 months, and when I left, she got really sick and she ended up passing away. And it broke my heart, but I also believe that people are brought into our lives for a reason. And whether they're there for a short time or a long time, I try to make the most of my time with people. And I believe that every single person that I come into contact with, whether it's the guy at the gas station, the teller at the bank, or my counselors, they're all here for me to learn something from them and for me to be able to try and give something positive back to them. So I have an immense amount of gratitude for her. When that office door shut, I started to cry. And for someone who, like I just said a minute ago, for somebody who did not want to show any signs of fear, because to me that was weakness, I just broke. So instead of her sitting down and starting paperwork with me, the amazing and intuitive woman that she was said, why don't we go out back for a minute? So she takes me out back and we sit down together, and she just starts asking me casual questions like, how was my day so far? Like, really nothing that really even applied to what I was doing there. She just treated me like a normal human being, and I needed that in that moment. The warm smile that she gave me in that moment when I first started to cry, like, I'll never forget that. That impacted me so much. And, you know, I've had opportunities with women since who have had similar experiences on their first day of treatment. I later went on in my life to work at this facility for a couple of years where I did intakes, and so I had a couple of experiences similar, and I'll never forget what that woman gave me, which was a warm smile and that feeling of not being judged. And I really hope that I did embody that back to the women that I came in contact with. So we go inside and we sit down and we start doing the paperwork, and it's a lengthy process, and I'm sitting there sipping on my apple juice, like trying to get hydrated, and she looks at me and she says, okay, so the next question is your sobriety date. And I remember feeling like all the color, well, I didn't have any color in my face, but if I did have any color in my face, I remember feeling like it all went away. And I looked at her and I was terrified to tell her that the date of my sobriety was November 9th, 2012, which was that exact same day that I was sitting in front of her. So when I did, she looked at me and she smiled and she just wrote. And I thought for sure she was going to ask me to leave. So the fact that she didn't was like, okay, I guess I get to stay. And later what I came to realize is that I think she knew probably when she talked to me on the phone that it was unrealistic to ask me or anyone to stay sober for 3 days prior to coming into treatment, but you know. Anyways, I have so much gratitude for that. So we finished the intake and she takes me up to my room. She gives me a tour of the house, and it's really homey feeling, and there's women upstairs watching TV. It's a Friday afternoon. Some women have gone home for the weekend to be with their families, and I get shown in my room, and I remember sitting on the edge of my bed and I was like, okay, like, this isn't terrible. But I was really anxious about meeting the other women. So I put some of my stuff away, and then I wandered down the hall to the living room where some women were, and I sat in a chair in the corner of the room. And some of the women that were there, again, were a little bit older than me. I was the youngest one there, and I think the next one that was younger was like 7 or 8 years older than me. So yeah, I was the baby of the house. And I acted like it for a while too, but we'll get into that another time. So anyway, as we sit down and they're watching TV and they start talking to me like they've known me forever and asking me questions about where I came from and this and that, and I remember being like, this might not be that bad after all. They're watching a show, okay? I think it was The Doctors, and it was all about bowel movements and fecal matter and how to tell if you're healthy or not. And I was like, is this what I'm gonna have to deal with for the next little while? Is like watching these weird ass shows in the afternoons with these ladies. Like, I don't care about this. Like, oh my God. But at the same time, I felt like I could breathe and I felt at home. It was so weird. Like, here I am sitting in this living room on this Friday afternoon with a doctor in the background on TV talking about poop, and I'm like feeling awkwardly at home, if that's the easiest way I can describe it. Like, it was just so crazy. By dinner time, I finally like had a bit of an appetite, so we went into the kitchen to eat, and one of the women looked at me and asked if I would like to go to a 12-step meeting with her and a couple other women that night, and I said sure, because I really didn't want to be locked up. I just wanted to be out, not thinking about my current situation. We went to this 12-step meeting, and I was terrified. In the building that it was in, I sat under some stairs where there was chairs along this wall, and the lights were those fluorescent like hospital lights, and it smelled like coffee, and I was anxious, I was nervous to be there, but I felt again like that weird sense of peace and like calm, even though I was anxious. I don't know, it's so hard to explain. That meeting was a surreal experience for me. I heard a lot of stuff in that meeting that made me feel like I needed to be there, but I still wasn't quite convinced, because in the back of my mind I was still thinking like, a week and I'm out of here, a week and I go, you know, don't get too attached to these people because I gotta go. We go back to the house that night, and I sit up talking and getting to know some of these women a little bit deeper, and I went to bed that first night and I slept for the first time without going to bed, because I was passing out. And the first time in a while, you know? And when I woke up that next day, it sunk in a little bit more. You know, and so anyways, I want to get more into my experience about treatment, or the recovery house experience that I went through, and what that really looked like for me, but I'll likely do that in another video. I really wanted to share what my first day of treatment looked like. You know, all the ideas that I built up in my head were all shattered by the truth of the fact that this wasn't some big scary place where I was going to be picked on and bullied and, you know, made to feel like I didn't belong. Like, this is the first place in a really long time that felt like home, and that was on day one, okay? I was shown love and compassion, and, you know, that was just my experience. Treatment and recovery facilities for somebody like me was exactly what I needed to get my feet planted in this new way of life. I don't think if I hadn't gone to a facility to get well and to learn basic life skills and basic day-to-day of living life without drugs and alcohol, I don't think I would be sober today. I tried it on my own, it didn't work, and I learned how to build connection, which is what I needed all along, you know, and what I still need today. It's vital for me to have connection. So, you know, if there's any message that I can provide through this video, is that there are so many resources out there to help get you into facilities if you feel like it's what you need, or if you know a loved one who might need it. You know, come on over to my channel, check out some of the videos that I share about my experience. If you have questions, leave me comments down below. I'll get back to each and every single one of you guys. This isn't something to be ashamed of, okay? For me, somebody who thought I had to be ashamed of it, I can tell you firsthand, that was the first step in the right direction for me getting well, for me getting the help that I needed, and for learning how to put one foot in front of the other and to heal and get well and rise above my addiction and how it was holding me back from my life, and just step into the light, you know. And that's really what my channel is about. I really want to be a beacon of light and a beacon of hope for you guys out there who are suffering, or who know somebody who's suffering or struggling, who've walked through your own addiction and recovery experiences. You know, this is just my personal experience, and if anything, I just hope that you don't feel alone. I hope that you can relate and find something in one of my videos that makes you feel like you're not the only one, and that there is so many of us out there who have walked this path and have gotten well, and who would love to be there and talk to you if you need to talk. So thank you guys so much for clicking on this video. Like I said before, if you haven't already, go ahead, click that subscribe button, come on over, join the family, join the love over here on my channel, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon.